Clerk Joseph P. Paoloni, please call the roll.
Councilman Beal.
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina. Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
And Supervisor Cavasilli.
Here. First, I'd like to start off, if you are looking for the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, that is in the Senior Center. But as we move forward through our meeting, I will invite you to join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which will be followed by an invocation by Pastor Ray from the Vineyard in the town of East Fishkill. And that'll be followed by a moment of silence in memory of World War II soldier Eugene Darrigan, Staff Sergeant in the U.S. Army. That 81 years of being down at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean following when he was killed in action, he returned home to this community. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So let us pray. And I wanted to start with the words that Jesus used when he taught his disciples how to pray. He said, pray like this: Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Father, would you please bless the proceedings this evening? Lord, we ask for your holy presence to be in this room. Lord, would you bring wisdom where wisdom is needed? Father, would you bring peace where peace is needed? Would you bless each and every one of the members of the board and those who are helping the board tonight? Father, would you give them wisdom to lead well and a heart to serve well? And would you just bless our community? Lord, we love this town of Wappingers, this village of Wappingers. It's a wonderful place to live, to work, and to raise our children. So we ask for your continued blessing upon our town. Would you keep your citizens safe, our children safe, and have your way this evening? We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. As we noted earlier, this past weekend, the town of Wappinger paused deliberations and joined our colleagues in the military and in government across the state for the funeral services of Staff Sergeant Eugene Darrigan, a World War II soldier who essentially was killed in action in 1944, and when he was in his mission, he was in a plane that was about 30,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean, where they were essentially the first plane out in a line of others. And Eugene Darrigan was the communicator and responding and notifying the planes behind him via Morse code of the location of Japanese anti-aircraft war guns. The plane that they were in, ironically, was known as Heaven Can Wait. And again, Heaven definitely waited for that crew of 11. And we are so happy that, again, this is something that is once in a lifetime to see that this soldier and his comrades were returned not only to United States soil, but to their hometown. So having Eugene Darrigan back here in the town of Wappinger after 81 years is something to acknowledge at this meeting here. With that, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of May 12, 2025?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor? Aye. We have one public hearing with us today, and that was on a previous discussion. This is our local law, amending Chapter 230-45 to add a weight limit on Old Troy Road and Smithtown Road. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The public hearing is now open. We invite anyone who wishes to speak on it to state their name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. No?
Marcy Wagman, Old Troy Road. So in your correspondence log, there's a letter from all of the residents, the many residents of Old Troy Road, all of them supporting the weight limit. I also want to emphasize 2 things. One, obviously, snow plows and emergency vehicles would be appropriate exceptions to the weight limit. But the other is that Old Troy Road's a greenway trail, and as such, there's a fair amount of recreational or physical fitness use, biking, a lot of dog walking, walking all the time, and fishermen. So there's a lot of people using it, not really thinking about getting someplace quickly or paying attention to the traffic surroundings. So as a greenway trail, I think it also emphasizes that we need to protect those areas in the town, and we should actually probably look at other roads designated as greenway trails for limitations on weight and speed, et cetera. But anyway, thank you for your time.
No, thank you,
Thank you.
Ms. Wagman. That is a very good point to acknowledge the fact that not only does this road not meet spec as it dates to 1750, but also it is a part of our Wappinger Greenway Trail Network. So thank you for including that. Any other comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion? Oh,
Just a couple, real quick. So local deliveries, obviously, we can't control oil delivery, obviously, if you have to get oil. The idea here is to have a restriction on any through traffic, right? So part of this would be with the weight limit in place, similar to the Dean Avenue approach, the information will be uploaded to the Garmin database, so the GPS units will reflect that there's a weight limit, right? That takes like 18 months, though, for that to happen, but just to give you a heads up on that. The other thing we're not going to have control over are railroad contract vehicles that have to access. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to restrict that. That's the only access point on that side of the creek until you get down to Chelsea. And when they're doing certain maintenance in the right-of-way, they're going to have to access that gate. I believe there's probably some sort of easement or something there. But I don't live there, so I don't know how often that happens. But, yeah, so that's going to be the challenge, unfortunately. But what we'll do is we'll make it known to our MTA partners and our Amtrak partners that we have put restrictions on that roadway. And as a courtesy, if they can give us a heads up, if they have any major projects going on down there, I think it'll be helpful. Then we can notify the residents, hey, listen, there's a preventative maintenance project going on. If they could please let us know, that would be helpful. Emergency vehicles obviously have to access that. But again, I think that this is a good first step. I appreciate you reminding us that it's part of the Greenway. I didn't even think about that. So that will give us some other thought for other areas of the town as well. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no further discussion in the public hearing, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Moving along to our public portion of the agenda. Do I have a motion to open it?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Ask if you have any comments on our agenda, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
Move. Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
The public portion is now closed. Folks, we do have one discussion item before us this evening. I circulated proposed fees from our recreation director for us to review for the sake of brevity and time. I believe everyone up here has a copy of these fees. If there's anything in particular that we'd like to amend, I would recommend that we go through that rather than a long, drawn-out process.
I have a list of changes in the Cornworth, if
Okay.
you'd like to take note and have a conversation.
Yep, I think that's a good way to start.
Okay. On the first 2 daytimes, I'd like to charge them both $500
Okay.
on the
So-
first two.
Yep.
On the next two, which are the evening, $750.
Okay.
And then we're going to the daytime party events. There's 4 of them, 1,000, 1,200, 500, and 7,500. And the caveat with those is that there's staff charges on those. And I believe on the weekend, we would have to get with our comptroller to find out actual costs before we came up with a charge to the customer, if that makes sense.
That's fair. Yes, yes, yes.
So I went into our buildings, sorry. I found out what the highest overtime rate for one of our buildings and grounds employees is, rounded up $1 or $2, and that is the staffing charge that is on there. So if you're interested in charging above that rate, that's completely fine, but the number that's in there is that rate.
Okay, something just to think about is, if, say you had a Sunday evening event, and it was from 4 to 7, how many employees are gonna come out for time and a half, or probably double time on a Sunday? You're probably gonna have to do something to entice employees to wanna do this.
That would be a separate, anybody who would be coming to cover is going to be a union employee.
Right.
So that's a conversation that would also have to become part of that.
Right,
Yeah.
I agree with that. I just would have, I think we have to have that conversation, and
Yeah.
again, it would be great to have everybody say, oh, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I
It has to be
dare
worth
say
the
you need to dangle, make it worth somebody's while to want to
Yes.
do it.
Yes.
And just for the sake of public information, this is specific to the Carnwath Chapel. So the Recreation Director, and we'll provide these to the clerk for the minutes, provided amended fee schedules for obviously the improved upon band shell over at Schlatthaus Park. But what the councilman was referring to was a number of changes when it comes to the Carnwath Chapel, which obviously we opened as of the State of the Town address to be a events venue for weddings, receptions, things like that, for the community to rent. Obviously, the town needs to cover costs, and it needs to make sense for the town to engage in, this type of activity, for it not to be a loss. That's the whole point of the project. So the rates that were discussed here today were specific to the Carnwath Chapel and any of the high-end events that might be hosted there by, whether that is an individual for a wedding or for an organization for a reception.
I'd
So-
be interested to hear what Bill has to say. He's at events all the time.
Yeah.
So the idea here is to make sure we at least recovered our cost on this thing, and make a little bit of money on it. The other point we need to make too is that for a new event contract, we should probably have our attorney take a look at that as well.
Yes. So rather than doing this through MyRec, Jessica, specific to the chapel at Carnwath, we should have an events contract,
So basically a paper
a paper
version.
contract
Right.
version of that. This
Okay.
way, when people are going and trying to book their wedding reception, they're not also getting our pavilions and some of our other, the basketball courts and things like that. It's specific to Carnwath.
That's how we snag their emails, though.
Yeah.
So-
Well, we can snag them through other ways of doing this. So the idea is to make this kind of separate than our other recreation facilities, as, the town has really made this a very high-end site. We would encourage our attorney and obviously the recreation staff to take a look at locations such as Locust Grove, to see how they also have their model set up in terms of a contract.
So the other point I would make is that the base fee updates, we're in agreement with them now based on your recommendations, but we should continually, take a look at these, make sure they still make sense as we get into the year and we start, renting out some of the facilities, et cetera.
Yeah. And these do not impact our everyday, like Martsfield. This does not affect our residents. This is obviously specific for very high-end events.
And in terms of the other fees on here?
No comment, everything's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So just a question, Councilman Phillips, what were the changes that you proposed?
The first two to go to 500.
You're talking about daytime meeting conference?
Correct.
Yep. The evening meeting conference, 750. And then the daytime events, 1,000 and 1,200, and the evening events, 5,000, 7,500. Because as you know, I mean, it's a venue. It's not just a hall or, you know, a pavilion or something like that, so.
It's truly a destination. It's beautiful.
Yeah, what are we basing these numbers on, though?
So, I was going to say, so I brought out a caterer who has performed events at Locust Grove and a number of other similar sites, and he had said, you know, the town of Wappinger would be crazy not to charge a bottom fee of $7,500. Obviously, we know that the site is still in its, you know, infancy, you know, in terms of being open to the public, so it was a staggered rate to amend them to what we feel is more appropriate in line with other locations. Councilman Phillips operates a venue in the town of East Fishkill, and they charged more money for a place half the size and a very different style. So we were trying to bring this in line with more of what is available in the area, and we did seek professional advice when it came to this as well.
I just think those numbers are way out of line, to be honest with you. I mean, if I have a Sweet 16 for my daughter, which I don't have a daughter, hypothetically, I'm not going to spend $7,500 to rent the chapel to have a Sweet 16 party.
Well, again, that goes back to what is the intended use of the chapel. If we want to have every Sweet 16, absolutely.
The way I view it is if the community wants to have a gathering, whether it be, you know, a christening or, you know, an event like that, how many people does that, does it seat?
Yeah, 200.
Because even if you look at basic math here, there's venues right here in this area that charge $200 a seat for an event,
Yeah.
and you get, you know, 3-course meal for $7,500 for 37 people. So just to rent the hall for $7,500 to me sounds like,
Yeah, I believe Locust Grove is 7,000 just to walk in the door? 7 to 10 just to walk in the door, and that's what we were trying to base this off of.
yeah, I just don't want to price out people that want to, we have no venue in this town to have a family gathering.
We also did not want to undercut our community organizations like the Knights of Columbus, you know, Italian Center, things like that, the Chelsea Sportsman's Club. We did not want to undercut any of our community organizations. So essentially, we were filling the need in talking with Dutchess Tourism and some of these area caterers, the need for more of the higher end. So
Yeah.
there was a rationale done.
I understand. I do a lot of weddings.
Oh.
And I don't think that someone's going to pay $7,500 just for the venue unless there's more to it than just the venue.
Would you recommend
Listen, I'm just,
Well, why don't you look at the numbers? I
Yeah.
mean, nothing's set in stone.
yeah.
And, you know, go through versus what you see out there and bring back what you have.
Yeah, and that's all this was, and Jessica, you know, did work to put this together, you know, this past week, so we could at least have a fee structure in place for 2025. You know, this way we can actually, you know, see how it works. This would be, you know, amended come 2026 anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate too hard here, but I just want to make sure that we're not inadvertently pricing out the average, you know, family that wants to do something.
Yeah,
That's all.
absolutely. So, I mean, if you want, that's why I placed this on here for a discussion. I wanted to gain the pulse of the board and see what everyone was thinking. And then we can obviously come back, email amongst ourselves, do our research, and then we can put together a resolution.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good starting point. You know, I think that you and your team have done an incredible job at that chapel. I will just say, I had not seen it until I went to the state of the town.
Thank you.
Well, I saw it before.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen it after, but it's an incredible amount of progress that's been happening there, certainly. But when I was sitting there, I was thinking, yeah, no, I like how it's dressed up for, you know, it's the perfect location for a gala, right? I remember many years ago, former Supervisor Ruggiero, you know, did some events there.
We welcomed him back there this past Saturday. He was blown away by it.
Yeah, so I think it's good, definitely all positive, but I'm just thinking, I have a different perspective because I've been doing events for 30 years and done a lot of events here in Dutchess County at different towns where they have venues for, informal type events. And I get that we want to market to higher end events, I get that. But I also feel like there's a market for someone that wants to have a gathering of, 80 people, family and friends for a Sweet 16 or for, even a quinceañera or something like that, right? That would be not at the wedding level, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So certainly, I'd be
If-
curious to see other
Yeah, if you don't
comparisons.
mind taking a stab at that and,
Yeah.
and helping us out, we would love to get everyone's experience up here. And I think that's what the collective conversation was meant to be. So that would be fantastic. And then also, if you have any advice with the acoustics in there, that's also helpful as well.
Yeah, you're gonna have to hang, some sort of material, whether it be curtains or whether it be, I mean, the acoustics in there for what we did, what you did, weren't horrible, but, there's some basic things that can be done to absorb the reverb,
Okay.
right? I mean, I was very impressed, I gotta say. I was like,
Thank you.
just blown away, actually. That said, and I don't know if we're prepared to talk about these specifics, but I see an alcohol provision for outdoor events at Schlothouse, indoor, outdoor events at Carnwath, so.
So
are-
those all exist today?
Is that a rider, or what is that?
So, basically, it is, first of all, not something that's charged for, say, like a pavilion rental. That's why I clarified on there the location. If you are hosting a bridal shower at Mart's, you are not paying this extra fee, but you are giving us an insurance certificate with host liquor liability. This specific fee, which we have actually never had to charge yet, has to do with the sales. There's a lot more paperwork review. So if someone were to have a wedding or have a music festival or have an event like that where they're going to be selling alcohol, then there's paperwork and time review that goes with that. So that's what that fee is
Do you
for.
require SLA permit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would imagine everything has to be consistent with the
State liquor.
State
authority.
Liquor Authority.
Yes.
But again, I don't want to belabor this, there's a lot of variables. I would just say, have the attorney take a look at it, let's do some comparisons. Locust Grove is a fair comparison.
Absolutely.
Certainly,
And we spoke specifically to the caterer that has probably
is
handled,
that Mike?
yeah,
Yeah, Mike does.
90% of
yeah.
Locust Grove's activities.
Yeah, but, I've done a lot of events there. Not all of them have been Mike Polachek,
Nope, no.
but, there are provisions for when a caterer comes in, right? There's very specific provisions when a DJ comes in. I mean,
Absolutely.
these are things we should take a look at that already exist, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I'd be curious to see how they're doing it from that end, and
Typically, most outside vendors have to provide their insurance certificate and.
Well, even like setup-wise, I get what Bill's, saying, because
Yeah.
back when I was 16 years old, I used to help lug his speaker system around and DJ equipment. So I understand that what he's probably talking about is, there's very specific guidelines as to which door you enter
Yeah.
into, setup, where you're allowed to go, where you're not allowed to go, catering-wise, where they can heat up food, where they can have a prep station, where waiting staff is going to be. And for the most part, we've addressed 90% of it. And so that's the direction that we're heading in. And we have spoken to a lot of the professionals. Again, from a DJ perspective, if you'd like to give a little more, no, seriously, we want to make sure that we hit every base here. But from a DJ perspective, it's definitely worth the while. So, no, we
back in the 2010s, when you were a junior DJ in training,
Yeah.
didn't work out for him.
No.
But,
something else worked out for me, I guess.
but he did a lot of events back then. But yeah, there's just different things to look at. And again, my position would be, yeah, I'm all about bringing the big events in and making all the money. But I think also, we want to be sensitive to the average family that maybe wants to have an event for an affordable price.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, perhaps that's a resident versus non-resident cost or
There you go.
wherever it may be.
Sure.
again, the whole point is Carnwath has sat for 25 years, that building has sat for 25 years. We want it to be used, we want it to be an asset for the community. And I think that after all the work that we have done collectively, it is 110% going to be a destination that the people of the town are going to be proud of.
Good work, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll put a pin in that, and we will circle back around. If anyone has any ideas, let's have the conversation. Hopefully, we'll move forward to adopting something at the next meeting. Perfect. All right, moving along to the consent resolutions. Resolution 2025-113, resolution approving inspections on time as an approved electrical inspector for the town of Wappinger. Resolution 2025-114, resolution amending the designated time and place for holding town board meetings for the calendar year 2025. Resolution 2025-115, a resolution acknowledging the appointment of the Deputy Superintendent of Highways. And Resolution 2025-116, correspondence log. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second it.
I just have a question.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. On the discussion.
Yeah, July 14th, I'm flying to Vegas.
You're flying out to Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay, good for
I
you.
don't know if anybody has another day, or if you just want to hold the meeting, that's up to you guys.
July 14th.
I mean, we could definitely talk about it, yeah.
Where's
No-
that resolution? Is it in here?
It's in here.
Page 50,
Oh. No wonder.
7.2.
No wonder I can't-
Yeah, there's a lot with that inspections on time in there. So, all right, so July 14th, you can't make it. Would everyone like to look at their calendars?
I gotta look, but I know I have a time period blocked out in July. Can we circle back on that?
Yeah.
Do you- Would
You
you,
can leave.
Just keep it for now, and then if we need.
Okay.
Just keep it for now, because there's a chance I might have a problem with that, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't want to start, my luck, what we'll do is change it, and that'll be the date that I have the problem.
okay.
That's fine.
So, all right, we'll adopt everything as presented here, and then if we need to change it, we'll change it.
Very good.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. The non-consent resolutions, Resolution 2025-109, resolution confirming hiring a personnel assistant. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make a motion for discussion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. On the discussion, I would like to amend this resolution to reflect the following. In the second, now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby confirms the hiring of Emma Consiglio to the position of personnel assistant, and that she shall be paid a salary of $80,000 per year. Do I have a motion to approve?
Did you want to include the weeks of vacation as well?
It was already in there.
Okay,
It was already in that 3 weeks vacation.
okay.
Okay?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. Any further discussion on the amended resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. And Resolution 2025-112, resolution adopting a local law which would amend Chapter 230-45 of the Town Code for a weight limit on Smithtown Road and Old Troy Road.
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilman Beal,
Second.
second by Councilman Casella.
Let me just say one thing. We talked about, this is Old Troy and Smithtown, right?
Yeah, did I not say that?
Yeah, no, I think you did. So we didn't talk about Smithtown. So again, I just want to make sure that folks don't think that this is something arbitrary.
No.
The reason why Smithtown is part of this is because there are sections of that roadway that are barely 10 feet wide. And even though that one section happens to extend just outside the town in the triangle, right?
Yep.
It is just not a good situation for large vehicles to be traveling through that area, especially with the lack of visibility. So it's not like you can even back up, right? You get to that point, even if you're still in the town of Wappinger, you can't negotiate that.
I spoke to Supervisor Albra and Superintendent of Highways Istvan down in Fishkill about our local law. They agree 110%.
Okay.
They are working on their own legislation
Okay.
to put a weight limit, not only on Smithtown Road, but also on Cedar Hill
Cedar,
Road.
yeah, yeah.
They don't want anyone going up that far. And again, I gave them our rationale that these roads don't meet town spec. They argue that Cedar Hill Road also does not meet town spec, as it dates back to the 1700s as well. So they asked us
Yeah.
to consider that. But they are moving forward with legislation on Cedar Hill Road in Smithtown.
Yeah, Smithtown also goes back. Remember we were looking at that map and the firehouse? It has a different name. I don't even know what it was, but it goes way back. And that's where I was
Snake
going
Mountain
with this. It'd be helpful if vehicles that are coming from town of Fishkill could see that,
Yeah.
you know, there's a weight limit on Smithtown so that they're not making, once you're in, you're not getting out,
Yeah.
right? So that's the issue.
And that's the idea here, folks. You know, we are looking at the town comprehensively for these roads that don't meet spec, that are unfortunately being used as bypass roads to bypass traffic, and obviously residents and the infrastructure are suffering. So fortunately, we have a great relationship with our colleagues in the town of Fishkill. They're entertaining this legislation, and you're going to continue to see this board adopt similar legislation to ensure that we protect our quality of life and our infrastructure. Because we know that these roads were not built to handle, tractor trailers and that kind of heavy traffic.
And the other advantage here is once we adopt these local laws, like I said before, platforms like Waze and Garmin GPS and different technologies will recognize that there are restrictions on that road, so it doesn't automatically send you that way. That's what it's doing right now. So if you're south on 9, right, and there's something going on at 9 and 52, it's gonna turn you down Smithtown Road, right? So we're trying to be smart about how to prevent that from happening, right? And I think this is the best strategy that we can use at this point.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes, the local law passes. All right, moving along to items for special consideration, new business. I would like to start off a conversation on potentially developing a sign shop for our town highway department. Councilman, here, I have quotes here. And then, Councilman Casella, would you mind providing Town Clerk Paoloni with these?
Sure.
Thank you, for the record. I was speaking and working with the highway superintendent on this. Our town's sign vendor, so essentially everywhere that we order signs like this weight limit or our green street signs or whatever it may be, is going to be retiring. And she has essentially put out a notice to all the area highway superintendents that you're going to need to find another means of producing your signs. And so trying to get ahead of the game here, this is something that Councilman Phillips and I and Superintendent Sheehan have talked about. We've toured the town of Fishkill sign shop as well as the town of LaGrange sign shop. And to see how they essentially print their own signs in-house, saving an extraordinary amount of money that the town's investment would be returned upon eventually. But again, for an efficiency, when we adopt a local law, the next day there could be a sign out there. And again, I'm in favor of any time that we can bring a service in-house and obviously save money on it. So the highway superintendent received 2 quotes. This was the vendor from the town of Fishkill on state bid for 2 different options, one being $45,000, the other one being $55,000. The sole difference in that is the type of printer and cutter that we would buy if we wanted a more high-end one that does obviously reflective signage. They are recommending the one option. Councilman Phillips and I toured both of those locations with the superintendent. We were blown away by how they were able to produce these signs and essentially how simple it is. So really what we'd be looking at is the startup costs for purchasing the necessary equipment, and then actually the money that we have in our annual budget to purchase signs essentially would really be cut in half, because now we'd just be buying the materials direct rather than paying for labor and buying them from an outside vendor. If the town board were interested, we could, of course, adopt this tonight. I propose funding this at a DB fund balance and moving this along. This way we're ahead of the game and the highway superintendent can move forward.
The
So
highway
this would-
department currently pays between $11,000 and $12,000 a year in signs.
Correct.
We had discussed this, I believe, last meeting, that it would be a great idea, and I'm glad he went out and got the option. Personally, I think you should buy the better machine, which is $10,000 more expensive, but I believe that the $55,000 is well worth the expense.
I agree. I think the 55, almost 56,000 is the better option. The other thing too is it's about a 4.5-year payback. But again, if you think about the roll-off truck we just bought recently for highway, again, that was about a 3-year payback, and that's what you want to do. You want to save the town money. So, again, it's a good return on investment. So I think, going with the better machine is the way to go.
Thank you, Councilman. And that's essentially the model that we're trying to develop here moving forward, is when we see things that are costing the town money and we have the means to obviously cut that cost and bring things in-house, we are saving taxpayers money in the long run. We are cutting waste. We are trying to be ahead of the game when it comes to being efficient and thinking outside the box. And we think that this is the right step.
From a public safety standpoint, we have a mixed match of piecemealed private road signs now around this town.
Yes.
It's nobody's fault, but back in 1999, when 911 arrived in Dutchess County and private roads had to be named for properties that had 3 residential dwellings on them, you'll see the original signs that are out there, which are the white background with the green writing, right? That was before GPS really became a thing, right? Over the years, there have been additional private road signs created. Randolph Avenue, which is the Randolph School, different color scheme.
Yeah, we need to standardize.
Alpine Drive, different color scheme, right? What needs to happen, in my opinion, is the private road signs need to be
Standardized.
all standardized. What I would say is, I don't have a problem with the white background with the green. That's the reverse of a public roadway.
Yeah.
But you need to have PVT, in my opinion, or private underneath the road
Absolutely.
name, underneath the, whatever it is, the road, drive, avenue, whatever. You got to have that, because now, you're getting sent down private roads on your GPS, and that's not appropriate. We need to have those marked properly. They need to be larger. Now the new spec that's out there for municipal signs, road signs need to be bigger, because emergency services are trying to find these roads, and they're often very difficult to find on the small signs. Some of them are even missing.
Yes.
So I see great value, because there's no way I could have justified replacing all those signs in one shot. I'm not saying do it right away, because I have other things to do first, but there's no way you could justify that expense, taking that on, because technically, the private road signs were required to be put up and paid for by the property owners back when this first happened, right? My argument now would be we need to standardize it as a town for the purposes of public safety. And how do we do it? We do it in-house, right? And, if you average $12,000 on regular signs a year, I would argue probably over $10,000 in private road signs that would be done, right? So 12 plus 10, 22, you're already halfway there, right? So I would go with the $55,000 investment. I believe that this is going to not only save us money, it's going to give us the ability to affect safety more efficiently. As you said, we can create the weight limit signs in-house. Once we adopt it, we can put them up right away. If we have an issue out on the road where an accident happens and it takes the sign down, which happens all the time, we could make a sign and put it back up, right? So I think there's definitely advantages. The county has a sign shop, the town of Fishkill has a sign shop, and I think the town of Wappinger should have a sign shop also.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a motion to purchase the necessary equipment outlined in this quote from Glencoe Supply, Inc., for the total of $55,993.00 for the purposes of establishing a sign shop for the town of Wappinger.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Beal.
I'll yield to Councilman
Okay,
Phillips.
second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
He did the work.
Thank you. I would like to note that we had a tremendous weekend here. Obviously, we opened the meeting with returning Staff Sergeant Eugene Derrigan home to the town of Wappinger, participating in his funeral service. But we also, which makes our town very unique, had 4 different Memorial Day services throughout our town yesterday. which I was speaking with another supervisor. They said, that's a lot. I said, the town of Wappinger, we really have such a vast community with so many passionate individuals that we are so proud to recognize those who have fallen and so proud to recognize our soldiers and veterans. So special shout out to the Chelsea Yacht Club, the Houstonville Fire Company, VFW and the Village of Wappingers Falls, and our own town of Wappinger Parks and Recreation Department for pulling together those great ceremonies. And keeping the theme going with Parks and Recreation, tomorrow we have our Senior Living Expo here in the town of Wappinger. That's why there's extra tape down on the floors marking the vendor spots. So if you are a senior citizen in the town of Wappinger, please come by Town Hall. We have a new model this year, an expanded vendor field. So even we have folks that are, running different nonprofit organizations, offering volunteer opportunities to seniors, as well as those agencies that offer assistance to those seniors. Special shout out to the volunteer firefighters at the Houstonville Fire Company, who will be cooking lunch for all in attendance tomorrow, which that is definitely always a special treat when they come down. So that is our Senior Living Expo tomorrow at Wappinger Town Hall. On June 1st, the Dutchess County Historical Society is actually recognizing our town's 150th anniversary with a special gala at the home of Dick Leahy in the Chelsea hamlet. If you've never seen Mr. Leahy's home, I would encourage everyone who can to attend this event, as he has, if not the largest, but with the most beautiful private carriage and harness racing collection in the region. Including carriages that are from our own town of Wappinger and Houstonville hamlet. That will be June 1st, hosted by the Dutchess County Historical Society. And on June 13th, the Wappinger Historical Society will be recognizing our 150th anniversary as well with their Spirit of Mizir Gala, and that will be held at the Lower Wappinger Creek Boathouse on Market Street. So two great events recognizing our town's sesquicentennial year, hosted by our area historical societies. I hope everyone can attend. And on that note, this obviously happened since we last met, we celebrated our town's 150th birthday with our amazing reenactment that was held at the old town hall on Mill Street. Special shout out to Town Clerk Paoloni and Councilman Beal and the many staff and volunteers that signed up to join this crazy idea that we essentially read the minute books and reenacted the founding of our town from when we seceded from Fishkill 150 years ago. And we also celebrated our town community day, the weekend closest to May 20th at Schlott House Park. We opened up our brand new live performance stage with an incredible musical lineup. We had fireworks, we had an amazing parade, and a true hometown community feel with food trucks and community vendors. It was a great time, and I appreciate everyone for coming out and supporting these events.
I just got to say, I'm so proud of Joey for, I was just blown away by that event that you set up to mark the moment. I don't know, I just got such a kick out of that. We've known the 150th is coming, right? I've been here for a little while, so it seems like just yesterday it was 20 years to go. Now we're here. But, Joey, obviously, or Supervisor Cavazzini, when I met him was the history buff in Fishkill, and then he was the history buff here, and then for him to be the supervisor for the 150th was just, I just can't, even my Aunt Trish was like, this is just crazy how this all lined up like this, right? And to sit there and do that reenactment, which is, again, as I said that day, we're not going to remember everything we did here on the town board or even in the audience, but we're going to remember that. that we're not going to forget that moment because it was just kind of a unique way to mark a moment in time, right? And to be in the building.
Yes, where it happened.
Be in that building and to be on that street and to have the minute book there. Shout out to Town Clerk Paoloni, an incredible Tony Award-winning job you did that day. Just kidding. I did better. I had one line. That's all I had. That's all they would trust me with. But
It was a very powerful line.
it was, did require some method acting. But, you know, a lot of people that I've run into since then have actually watched that whole YouTube video.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that tells you something. People are interested in the history of the town. A lot of things were done to prepare for that event, to line up the parade and the event at the park, you know, as close to May 20th as possible. And a lot of things have kind of come together here in the last, within the last 2 weeks, that we need to write down, right? Because you're not going to experience some of those, you're not going to experience any of those things again. And what I said yesterday, I'm just going to repeat. You know, since Thursday of last week, our town facilitated the route for a dignified transfer of a World War II hero. Since Thursday, right? On Saturday, our town and village gathered for the funeral procession of a World War II hero, right? And on Saturday, our community came together and witnessed a World War II line-of-duty funeral with full military honors. What an historic moment in time during our 150th year, right? That is just incredible when you think about it. And it does make me think about my cousin, Joseph W. McDonald,
Yes.
right, who's still missing in action from Vietnam. And the technology that exists today to identify those that have been lost, it really gives hope, right? It gives so much hope for those that never had closure, right? And in the case of Eugene Darrigan, to have his niece, I believe that was,
Yes.
accept the flag from the military that day as the last remaining family member to know him, and she was 4 years old when he left, right? Unfortunately, his son has since passed in 2020, right? But to have that lineage right there in St. Mary's Cemetery, and to stand inside the church and watch that funeral mass and participate in that funeral mass with 200 people there.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was
I mean,
beautiful.
it's just, I can't get over it, to be honest with you, the things that have happened in this community over the last couple weeks. So I say kudos to the supervisor and your team for putting these things together. But, you know, some of these things that happened, you just can't plan for, right?
No.
It just all happened right around this time. So I look forward to the upcoming months as we continue to celebrate our sesquicentennial, did I say that right?
Yes, beautiful.
150th year. It's exciting. If I can just comment on a couple items, if you're done.
Absolutely.
Some zoning issues, you know, today was not a Monday, but it felt like a Monday, but you saw my normal Monday email
Yep.
with the list of things. Some of the plazas have shopping carts all over the place.
Yeah.
We had a gas odor in a particular plaza over the weekend, and, you know, we're doing a slalom course around,
Yeah.
you know, shopping carts at the rear of the building. So I appreciate the building department getting a handle on that. The unregistered vehicle that was, I gave it 2 weeks. I mean, it's been sitting there for 2 weeks.
Trust me, I've already made several comments about it.
That's
yes.
at 9 and Old Hopewell. And I think that, you know, each of us this is why I love the ward system, because each of us kind of recognize these things within our own wards and kind of lobby for things to be corrected, and our team here at Town Hall does a great job doing that. Not that I want to hit them, you know, first thing in the morning coming back from
They got it done.
from a holiday weekend, but they got it done, and I appreciate that as well. So thank you for handling that, and that's all I have at this time. I will say down here, obviously, it's Sergeant Palmetier and Middle Bush. This is a county project. They're adding shoulder to the intersection, and they're going to finally replace that traffic light that the town used to own.
Yes. It
So
will be a
you know,
smart light finally.
Yeah, we're finally going to have a light that meets today's standards, that has sensors on it. But that was the only traffic light the town of Wappinger owned.
Correct.
So from a historical standpoint, you know, we should probably save one of those, you know, one of those heads.
All
you know,
right.
Right?
I could reach out to Bob Balkiner if
Yeah.
you see him in your capacity.
Like that's got some history on it. It's been hanging there for probably 50 years. It's
Yeah.
got the old screw-in incandescent light bulbs in it.
Yeah,
I'm sure you could find something to do with one of them, right?
I'm sure I can.
But just a thought, and the sign out front obviously looks beautiful. I was just talking to the supervisor before the meeting about maybe repurposing the former sign that was out there.
We
Now,
should mention that at our meeting tomorrow.
you know, that former sign used to be at the Houstonville Fire Department, right? And then when the Houstonville Fire Department was upgrading to a sign that needs to be upgraded again, that sign ended up coming here, and it's been here probably for, I don't know, let's see, that would have been 23rd, so 12 years it's been out front.
Yeah.
12 or 13 years, so maybe we have another spot that, you know, in the town that it would be appropriate to be in front of, I don't know, we gotta think about it.
We can definitely look at it, absolutely.
Just a thought.
I'll reach out to the sign vendor and get that one back. and,
The hoarder in me doesn't want to see it go in the dumpster.
I will see
I'm
what
not a
we can do.
hoarder, I'm a collector.
All right, well, we have the letters, we could always repurpose them.
Yeah.
And you did mention one thing about plazas, staying up with
Yeah.
maintenance. I do just want to note that we have been advised that Rite Aid will be closing
Yeah.
in the town of Wappinger. I have already been in communication with the property owner of that site. They're located down in Georgia, about potential uses and innovative ways to repurpose that site. But also, first and foremost, making sure that the property is maintained and not neglected during this transition period.
Well, they haven't mowed the lawn yet.
I know, because their lease, because I've noted that already, their lease prohibits the property owner from going on and maintaining it. Rite Aid obviously has shed all responsibilities, so we're looking at a June date that Rite Aid will be vacating, and the property owner will be going in and maintaining and keeping an eye on things. But we
Yeah.
do have some really, really neat potential uses that can go in there that are innovative and are not your standard cookie cutter, uses on the Route 9 corridor. So we will, of course, continue to keep people posted, but I do want to make sure that if you do have any accounts, or obviously if that is your pharmacy in the town of Wappinger, that you go and make other plans, because obviously they will not be with us in the town of Wappinger too much longer.
And that's a corporate thing, it's not,
Yes.
a corporate Rite Aid situation. And I just hope that we can get something good in, that's a prime corner right
It is,
there.
I already expressed that.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to get ahead of the game before they started going out there, and again, they've been very amenable to having conversations with the town.
No cannabis.
No cannabis, I already explained that. Okay.
Unless it's prescribed.
Well, unless it's, how do you say, medicinal.
I said, we're not interested in that, we're not interested in high-density apartments, we're not interested in a gas station, we've made that very clear, so. All right. Councilman Phillips?
In the dignified transfer, I'd like to recognize the American Legion Riders and the Patriot Guard who escort. Unfortunately, Memorial Day weekend, as you all know, I'm knees deep in a festival, so
Right.
when we, this weekend, I unfortunately lose everything. It's amazing, the transformation of this town. In the last few months, Slaughterhouse Park is not looking like Slaughterhouse Park these days, and kudos to the supervisor and the Buildings and Ground part of it. That's really all I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Thank you for your support of all of these things.
Al, it's time for your pickleball update.
No pickleball update.
Al is still a 3 ranking in pickleball.
Anyone that's got a ranking in pickleball, I have questions about. All right, but go ahead.
My girlfriend just actually was at Martsfield playing pickleball. I sent Al a picture.
Sorry,
They were used.
I didn't mean to be rude, go ahead.
That's okay, we're good. So just a couple of quick things, kind of mentioned already by the supervisor and Councilman Beal and Councilman Phillips. If we take a look at the 150th anniversary, which was a terrific event, I mean, you can't ask for a better day. I mean, the sun was out finally. Music was great. You had 4 or 5 bands out there. A lot of attendance by, a lot of the residents, and I think that was important for the town to be able to enjoy the activities and the festivities of that day. A lot of vendors out there, both, selling things, but also food vendors, and, parade was terrific, so it was a really, really great event. So I think great job by the supervisor. From a Memorial Day perspective, again, we were all out there yesterday. Again, great attendance, a lot of officials, et cetera, but again, it was all about, those that passed away, and, we keep them in our hearts and our prayers and their families, et cetera. So again, we want to, again, it's a solemn day, but, it's a day for also, having a ceremony out there to honor those. A couple things, June 7th and June 8th in Robinson Lane, they have the baseball tournament that starts there, so that'll be the first one they do. This is a tournament that used to be in Connecticut. It is now in the town of Wappingers. They're going to be utilizing 10 of the 14 fields, potentially more, which is great. So shout out to Jeff Tomlins and Mike Kotash for handling all of the fields, getting them in shape and getting them ready for June 7th coming up. Company went out there and did a reseeding job, a couple of the fields out there. We had R2 and T-ball 1, so great job by the team that went out there. But again, as everybody's kind of mentioned, we've done some really important things over the last couple months here. You know, Schlatt House Park is an amazing, transformation from what we had before, from the brand-new stage that we see out there today, to removing the old stage, to now putting a lot of other things out there that really, improve the aesthetics, et cetera. Putting electric signs out there, which I think are going to be a nice improvement. Taking a look over at Carnworth, phenomenal job over at the chapel. I know I was out there with the supervisor when we were talking about, pouring the concrete and putting the new slab out there, and just a phenomenal job by not only the group that did that, but also by our buildings and grounds team here. Just inside alone, phenomenal, putting all those lights, 504 of those things up. Just amazing how they did all that stuff. But again, what a transformation. And it's reflection on the town, it's reflection on the town board here that, again, we're trying to make improvements for the town, trying to save money, but also, making things more aesthetically positive for people to come out and be able to enjoy things in the town. And that's what we're all about. I know, all kidding aside, we talk about pickleball all the time, but again, actually, we're in the process, just for those that do play tennis out there, we are working on trying to get that court repaired. So again, we've got contact with Craftco trying to get them out there. But again, our buildings and grounds team did an outstanding job replacing a couple of the nets out there that were broken. So again, our shout out to them. So again, trying to make things look great in this town, continue keeping taxes low, again, wanting to try to improve the quality of life for the residents here. And that's what I think we're all about here on this town board. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. Seeing no further business to come before the town board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
1 hour.
Motion carries. 1 hour. That was beautiful.